you know, I think Russia is not strong enough to represent a real threat to us. We are far stronger.
In the grand halls of Brussels and in the square of Budapest, a confrontation is unfolding, one that will resonate far beyond Central Europe. Viktor Orbán, Prime Minister of Hungary, has stepped into the spotlight in a way that is shaking the foundations of the European Union. For years, the Union has promised unity, shared destiny, common values. Today, those promises are being tested, and Hungary stands at the center of the storm. This is your channel. Subscribe to EU Politics. And if you haven't already, hit that button now, because what is happening in Hungary affects all 27 member states and beyond. Orbán's recent moves are bold and unmistakable. At a rally in Budapest on October 23, 2025, marking the 69th anniversary of the 1956 uprising, he accused Brussels of seeking to impose a puppet government on Hungary and framed the next election as a choice between peace or going to die for Ukraine. For his supporters, the message was clear: Hungary must control its own fate. Just days earlier, Orbán declared that Hungary should not adopt the euro, calling the European Union disintegrating.
NATO has no business in Ukraine. Ukraine is not member of NATO, neither Russia. And my job is to keep it as it is.
And warning that tying Hungary's future too closely to Brussels would be risky. This ideological turn is more than rhetoric. It is the map of a country repositioning itself on the European stage. Let's dig into three major pillars of this moment. 1. Hungary's energy and sanctions strategy. 2. Its engagement in creating a Ukraine-skeptical bloc. 3. The domestic election implications and what it means for the EU. Firstly, energy and sanctions. Hungary relies heavily on Russian oil and gas. Despite Western pressure and EU efforts to reduce dependency, Hungary remains tied to Moscow. As new US sanctions on Russian oil companies were announced, Orbán said Hungary would discuss with Donald Trump how to protect its supplies. He told Italian media that the US went too far in targeting Russia's energy sector, and Hungary must find a way out. That is not just about economics, it is about sovereignty. When a member state parts ways with the bloc's collective energy strategy, it forces Brussels to ask, how united are we when the supplies run hot or cold? It forces other members to consider, if Hungary breaks rank, will the cost be paid by all? The ripple effects are real. Higher bills, supply uncertainty, industrial disruptions. Second, the new bloc. According to recent reports, Hungary is seeking to form a coalition of Ukraine-skeptical EU members, notably the Czech Republic and Slovakia, to block further military and financial aid to Kiev. This aligns with Orbán's long-standing opposition to deeper involvement in Ukraine's war and opposition to Ukraine's fast-track EU membership bid. For those watching EU politics, the significance is seismic. If Hungary, Czechia, and Slovakia coordinate, they could become a disruptor within the Union. At the same time, Hungary's opposition is growing. The pro-EU opposition party TISA, led by Péter Magyar, holds a narrow lead in polls ahead of the 2026 parliamentary election. Orbán's mobilization around Hungary first, anti-Brussels rhetoric is aimed at preventing that shift. Now let's consider the domestic election front. Hungary's next election will likely take place in April 2026. For Orbán, the stakes are at eye level. 15 years in power, his party securing billions in EU funds, and yet a sense of stagnation among voters. At the rally, he warned that Brussels wants to push Ukraine into the EU at any price to bring war into Europe and take EU money to Ukraine. This message plays on fear, identity, and financial anxiety. As EU politics covers, the election isn't just Hungarian, it is a test case for Europe. Will citizens favor ties to Brussels or a turn inward? Will nationalist leaders prosper or falter? Because the consequences go far beyond Hungary's borders. Now let's zoom out. What does this mean for the European Union? A few implications. 1. The idea of one market, one policy, one voice is under threat. If member states begin forming mini blocs to block EU decisions, the Union's coherence weakens. 2. The model of integration faces a challenge. Orban is saying integration must serve national interest, not override it. 3. Brussels must respond. Will it pull hard to enforce rules, risking fragmentation, or soften to preserve membership, risking loss of authority? Brussels is watching closely. When energy policy falters or sanctions are undermined, the cost is not only economic, it is political. When a member state mobilizes its people against the Union, the symbolism is potent. And when an upcoming election looms, the pressure only mounts. For everyday Europeans and for viewers of EU politics, these shifts matter. Your energy bills, your jobs, your economy, your borders, your democratic rights, they all connect to whether the Union holds or splits. Let's bring it home with 3 key questions for you, the viewer. Will Hungary's path become a blueprint for other states? If many alliances emerge inside the EU, what is the future of unity? Can Brussels insist on collective policy when a member redefines its interest? Or will it simply tolerate dissent, weakening itself? If Orban's message resonates, will we see a Europe that is less Brussels-centric and more national-centric? And what does that mean for you? Before we wrap up, and don't forget subscribe to EU Politics so you don't miss the next breakthrough, we should remember Hungary is not isolated. It exists in a Europe facing economic slowdown, energy transition, geopolitical risk, and a democracy under pressure. Orban's moves accelerate trends already in motion. Europe is standing at a crossroads, and Viktor Orbán just made his boldest move yet. As Hungary challenges Brussels on sanctions, migration, and sovereignty, the European Union is entering a new era of political conflict. From secret EU meetings to Orban's powerful speeches, this video uncovers how one man is changing the balance of power inside Europe. The clash between national independence and EU control is escalating fast, and it could reshape the future of democracy, borders, and leadership across the continent. Watch till the end to understand what's really happening behind closed doors in Brussels, how Hungary's defiance is sparking debates in Germany, France, and Italy, and why Orban's words are shaking the entire European establishment. In conclusion, this moment is not just about one man or one country. It is about how Europe chooses to respond to internal divergence and external adversity. If the Union stands, it must adapt. If Hungary leads a path of defiance, the whole architecture must adjust. You are watching an era-making moment. Thank you for tuning in. If you found this valuable, share it, comment your thoughts, and of course subscribe to EU Politics for more deep dives into the making of Europe's future. Because this story isn't just happening over there, it's happening to all of us